Okay, I want you to picture a specific moment,
Uh-huh.
a very specific feeling. It's Friday afternoon, maybe 4:00 p.m.
The end of a long week.
You're staring at your calendar, and it just looks like a game of Tetris that you completely lost. You've been in meetings since Monday morning. You've, triaged your inbox. Those little green lights on Slack have been blinking at you all week.
Right.
You are just exhausted. But then you have this sinking, hollow realization that, nothing actually happened.
It is the defining sensation of the modern workplace. We call it the Hollow Week. I mean, the dashboards got updated, people talked, slides were definitely shown.
Oh, heads were nodded.
For sure. But no actual hard, irreversible decisions were made.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It feels like we're running on a treadmill that's also somehow on fire. We're moving so fast, but we're staying in the exact same spot. Yeah. Well, today we are doing a deep dive into this fascinating and, I have to say, slightly terrifying piece of writing. It argues this isn't just a you problem. It's titled "The Day the Leader Stopped Deciding." And honestly, it reads less like a business article and more like a psychological thriller about corporate collapse.
It really does. It frames this whole problem not as a personal failure, the usual, oh, I'm just lazy, or my boss is incompetent. It says it's a systemic collapse, that we're facing this hidden crisis where the fundamental act of leadership, just making a choice, has become nearly impossible.
So that's our mission for this deep dive, to figure out why decision-making seems to have broken down. Why do leaders, people who are paid to decide things, feel so paralyzed?
And we're going to unpack this idea the source introduces called the signal flood.
Because if the source is right, we are all drowning and we don't even know it.
And that metaphor drowning is really the crucial starting point. To get the signal flood, we have to look at the story we've been telling ourselves for, the last 30 years?
The information age?
The information age. The premise was so simple. More information will make us smarter, faster, better.
Right. Data is the new oil. The more charts you have, the more reports, the better the decision will be. The answer should just, light up in neon.
Exactly. That was the promise. But this source argues the information age is over. We've left it. We have now entered the signal flood. And the article has this really cutting line. It says, no one taught leadership how to swim.
Wow.
No.
That is such a vivid image. It's like the environment changed so gradually, we didn't notice. We went from standing on solid ground to treading water in a storm.
That's it. And to really make this stick, I want to walk us through this one scenario from the piece. It's called the 7:00 a.m. CEO scenario. And fair warning to you listening, this might trigger some flashbacks.
Lay it on me. I'm ready.
Okay, so picture this. It's 7:00 a.m. A CEO opens her laptop. Hasn't even had her second coffee.
The quiet before the storm.
She wants to get a head start. And what's waiting for her? According to the source, she has 42 unread Slack messages.
Okay.
She has 11 emails that are explicitly flagged urgent.
Which, let's be honest, just means someone else is panicking. Not that it's actually urgent. But still, the cortisol hits.
Right. But here's where it gets really messy. She has 3 different dashboards open. One from marketing, one from sales, one from product. And they're all showing conflicting KPIs. Marketing says engagement is up 200%. Sales says revenue is flat. Product says usage is trending down.
So the maps don't match the territory. Everyone is claiming victory, but the bank account isn't moving.
Correct. And that's not all. She probably has an AI summary of a meeting she missed. It's beautifully written, perfectly bulleted, but it's also kind of hallucinating what was actually promised. Plus, a 100-slide consultant deck predicting 3 mutually exclusive futures for the market.
And I'm just going to guess a board member is texting her asking, what's our position on this? About some social media fire that just started 5 minutes ago.
Now, here is the pivot point. In the old world, the information age, we look at her and say, great, look at all these inputs. She has everything she needs to make a decision.
But she doesn't decide, does she? The source says she just closes the laptop. Why?
And this is maybe the most profound insight in the entire piece. She closes the laptop not because she lacks data. She's drowning in data. She closes it because she lacks truth.
That hits hard. Lacking truth.
I mean, think about it. If marketing says we're winning and sales says we're losing, you don't have a shared reality. When you have infinite data but no way to know what is signal, the actual truth, and what is just noise, you don't feel empowered. You feel unsafe.
You feel like any move you make is a total gamble. If I go left, I'm ignoring sales. If I go right, I'm ignoring the product team.
Exactly. You don't know what's real. So what does she do? She doesn't say, okay, I decide we pivot.
No, she postpones, she schedules another meeting to get aligned.
Or asks for another report. Or she delegates it down to someone with even less context, hoping they'll catch the grenade.
The source calls this the invisible evaporation of authority.
I love that phrasing. It's not a big explosion. The company doesn't catch fire. The authority just, poof, it evaporates.
And you see the downstream effects of that everywhere, right?
Yeah.
This explains why a product team ships a feature that no one can really justify.
But it was on the roadmap 6 months ago.
Exactly. Or marketing runs campaigns that don't sell anything just so they can report their own green arrows on their own dashboard.
It's like everyone is just pantomiming their job, going through the motions, but the connection to reality, to the truth, has been severed.
The source puts it perfectly. Organizations aren't failing from a lack of intelligence. We have tons of smart people.
They're failing from an excess of noise. But we have to ask the question, how did we get here? Because this wasn't an overnight thing. We built this system.
Yeah, let's look at the history. The article points to the last 15 years of, quote, optimization. We spent a decade and a half optimizing everything. But what were we actually optimizing for?
That is the billion-dollar question. If you look at the incentives of our digital world, social media, news feeds, even our tools like Slack, we optimize for what? 3 things? Reach, virality, and speed.
Likes, clicks,
Yeah.
engagement, the dopamine loop. We basically built the workplace to function like a social network.
We did. We conditioned our entire culture to value the loudest voice, the fastest answer, the most confident narrative.
It's the hot take economy. It doesn't matter if you're right, it just matters if you're loud and you're first.
And if you pause to think for a day, you've already lost. Someone else has interrupted you.
And now we've introduced a multiplier, something that's accelerating this beyond human scale.
You're talking about AI.
I am. And we should be careful here because everyone loves AI right now.
Yes. And the source is pretty nuanced. It's not anti-AI, but it argues that in this specific environment, in this context of noise, AI is a massive destabilizer. It argues AI doesn't just help, it multiplies.
It multiplies content, it multiplies opinions.
It multiplies simulations. It lets anyone generate a confident-sounding report in seconds. A junior analyst can now create a 50-page strategy doc that looks incredibly professional.
And is completely hallucinated.
In 5 minutes. So we have more noise, generated faster, looking more convincing than ever before.
And this leads to what the source calls the entertainment trap.
Yes. This is a bit abstract, but it's so important. We have built systems designed for entertainment, social media dynamics, instant feedback, performative metrics, and we're asking leaders to make high-stakes, irreversible decisions inside of them.
There's an analogy in the text that made me laugh, but it's also terrifying.
Oh, I know the one.
It says it's like asking a pilot to land a plane using Instagram comments, with a dashboard built for TikTok and a co-pilot that hallucinates.
It's funny, but it's a perfect description of the cognitive load. If your dashboard is built for engagement like TikTok, it's showing you what's viral, what's trending.
That's not showing you what's true.
And if your co-pilot, whether it's AI or just bad data, is hallucinating, you cannot land the plane. You're flying blind while everyone screams at you.
No wonder boards feel uneasy. No wonder leaders feel so paralyzed.
You can't steer a ship if your compass is just spinning.
Okay, so the pilot is blind, the cockpit is screaming. What happens next? The source says this paralysis leads to a change in behavior. You can't just sit there staring at the wall. You have to look busy. You have to perform leadership.
Correct. You replace actual decision-making with other things. The source gives a whole list. You replaced decision with consensus, with committees,
That's how it works.
with workshops.
Let's have a workshop to unpack the framework for the committee. I feel like I've lived that life. I've sent that calendar invite because I didn't know what else to do.
We all have. It feels productive. But the source has this absolutely brutal definition for this behavior. It says, this is not strategy. This is fear dressed as process.
Oof, fear dressed as process. That is going to stick with me. It's the idea that if we just add enough steps, enough meetings, then if it goes wrong.
It's nobody's fault. Exactly. It diffuses responsibility. If the committee decides, then no one decides. The organization becomes what the source calls a democracy of noise.
Everyone speaks, but nothing is decided.
It's a deadlock. And the source makes a really important distinction here that I think matters for our mental health. It says this isn't burnout.
Right. We hear that word a lot.
This is a crucial distinction. Burnout is personal. It's, I work too hard, I need a vacation. What's being described here is cognitive collapse, and that is systemic.
It's not that the leader is tired. It's that the environment is uninhabitable for clear thinking. You can't meditate your way out of a toxic water supply.
The components are signal overload, attention distortion, credibility erosion. The crisis isn't technology. It's that we built organizations that produce infinite information but cannot produce shared truth.
Shared truth. Let's just pause on that. That's the missing piece, isn't it? If I think a metric means X and you think it means Y, we don't have a shared reality. We physically cannot move together.
And this leads to a really dark observation the source makes about how organizations actually die.
We think of bankruptcy or a big scandal.
Right, the big Enron moment. But the source argues those are rare. The more common death is meaninglessness.
Meaninglessness. Wow, that sounds almost existential.
It is. It's the slow death of smiling in meetings, are pointless. Approving initiatives, won't work, but look good on a slide.
Signing off on roadmaps that nobody actually believes in.
Yeah.
It's zombie corporate life. The bodies are in the seats, fingers are on keyboards, but the soul is gone.
Because the connection to reality has been severed, you're just managing the noise.
Okay, so that brings us to the solution. Usually this is where we'd say, and then they bought a new software tool.
Buy this SaaS platform and your existential dread will vanish.
Right, but the source is very specific about what the solution, which they call Zentrais, actually is, and more importantly, what it isn't.
No. The source describes Zentrais not as a tool, but as an alternative reality, or a new operating system for decision-making.
Which sounds a bit matrixy or maybe spiritual. So what does that mean practically? If it's not a dashboard, what is it?
It's about flipping the optimization incentives we talked about. The old model, the one we're in, optimizes for attention, popularity, and speed.
The loudest voice wins.
Zentrais represents a shift. It's about optimizing for signal, trust, integrity, and decision authority.
So instead of who can shout the loudest, it's who has the most credibility.
Exactly. The source explains that Zentrais, as a concept, doesn't tell leaders what to decide. It's not some AI oracle. Instead, it restores the environment where deciding becomes possible again.
It clears the fog. It stops the pilot from having to land using Instagram comments. But how? What's the mechanic?
It alludes to a system of provenance. In the attention economy, content is king. In the decision economy, which Zentrais is aiming for, verification is king. It's about a chain of custody for information.
So if I see a number on a dashboard, I know exactly who put it there, what data set it came from, and who validated it.
Yes. It's moving from being data-driven, which just means we have lots of numbers, to being trust-driven. It brings human reputation back into the loop.
This is the shift from the attention economy to what the source calls the decision economy, moving from noise to signal, from performance to truth.
And the argument is the shift is inevitable. The old model is collapsing. The human brain has hit a wall. We can't process any more data. The only way forward is fewer signals, but higher credibility.
Verified perspectives. Human authority restored.
That phrase is key. We hoped algorithms would solve everything for us. But the source is saying, no, leadership is human. But humans need a clean environment to function.
Reminds me of that line. Leadership was never about having the answers. It was about having the right conditions to choose.
And we accidentally destroyed those conditions. We thought we were making things more connected, more transparent, but we just created a fog.
So Zentrais is a way out of that fog, where trust becomes the infrastructure again. Sounds great, but it also sounds hard. It sounds like it requires leaders to actually lead.
It does. It requires them to say no to the noise. And the source ends with this very direct challenge to the reader, or in our case, you, the listener. It creates a fork in the road.
It asks a question that's a lot more uncomfortable than, do you want to buy some software?
It asks, are you willing to stop deciding inside broken systems?
That requires a lot of courage. To look at your inbox, your dashboards, your meetings, and say, this is broken. This is noise. I'm not playing this game anymore.
It's rejecting the fear dressed as process. It's refusing to sign off on the roadmap you don't believe in.
Because the future won't belong to the fastest companies anymore. Speed is a commodity.
And it won't belong to the loudest leaders because everyone has a megaphone now. Shouting just adds to the noise.
So who does the future belong to?
The source says it will belong to those who can do the one thing that has become incredibly rare.
See clearly. Decide consciously. and take responsibility for truth again.
It sounds so simple, but in the signal flood, it's the ultimate competitive advantage. If you can see the wall when everyone else just sees fog, you win.
So here is our final thought for you to chew on as you go back to your likely overflowing inbox. We often blame ourselves for not being productive enough or decisive enough. We think, if I just managed my time better.
But what if the water you're trying to swim in is actually toxic? What if the goal isn't to swim faster, but to get out of the pool entirely and find solid ground?
If you feel like you're drowning in noise, maybe it's not because you're a bad swimmer. Maybe it's because you were never meant to survive the flood. The question is, what are you going to do to find your signal?
Search for truth, not just data.
That's it for this deep dive. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you in the next one.